Hi everyone, welcome to another top 10 list, and hopefully I can get a minute to myself without my neighbours deciding that now is the best time to do their lawn. You know, I work all day and I think, right, I'm going to record something, and then this is the moment they pick to start trimming their edges with OCD. Ah well, never mind. So, yeah, things carry on. Isolation's still a bugbear for me to deal with. I'm really at the end of my tether with it, and, you know, it doesn't do well with my personality at this point. But there's a good couple of ways to vent out. One is exercise. You know, I'm doing more jogging now, and that's certainly helping, you know, to just go out for a decent jog, improve myself, listen to a bit of music. I'm also doing a big video editing favour for my family at the moment. You know, a nice big project for a family friend. So it's like, yep, that should be pretty sweet. But the best way I can think of to vent is negative top 10 lists. Yes, you like these lists just as much as I do, and you know, I don't want to like talk mean about games all the time, but I do a lot of positive lists. But you know me, I tell it how it is, and sometimes you just need to talk about stuff you don't like. You know, you're just a way to vent out and just go, relax afterwards, you know, and that's what I kind of need. So the next two top 10 lists will be negative ones, in a tongue-in-cheek fashion. I mean, yes, I don't like these things on these top 10s, but it doesn't mean that if you think otherwise, I think less of you, all this, disclaimer, blah, blah, blah. You know, you have to say these things beforehand.
Everybody got that?
So, the one on the next video will be the top 10 overrated games list, which I did back in 2017 time, I think, end of 2017, and it is currently my third most popular video on this channel, despite the fact it has a 60-40 ratio of likes to dislikes, because as we know on the internet, as soon as you dislike something someone else likes, you are immediately disliked by them, because people apparently can't take opinions. But this one is a little bit different. I haven't done this one before. This is the top 10 things I hate in games. I was going to do top 10 things I love in games, but then I found that I couldn't do both lists because they would essentially just be a kind of reverse of the other for the most part. And I figured, well, you know what? People kind of already know what I really like in games. So they know I like, you know, a lot of theme. They know I like certain mechanics like multi-use cards and that. So I figured, all right, well, maybe I should get into more detail as to what I dislike in games, you know. And this isn't just games. It's not even just genres or themes, maybe. It is everything in gaming as a whole. 10 things I don't like. It could be a practice of a publisher. It could be a thing that I see in many games repeated all the time. It could be a specific theme, a specific genre, but this will not be specific games. Okay, so I will use games as examples, but this is not like my number 5 is Concordia, for example. It's not like that. You know, you'll have to, you know, ask me more on this one. But this is my top 10 hates in games. Let's get on with it. Got the list here. It was I could only really think of 11 things, and one of them ended up being a Patreon choice anyway, so there's not much to talk about after this is done. Right, venting time. Number 10 is it's a hate in a sense. I think it's just more of a dislike, hence it's number 10. But this is a very unique one to me because I'm not sure anybody else out there even thinks this way. But this is what I am seeing in a lot of games lately, particularly the heavy Euro games where you want to just shove every mechanic in the kitchen sink in there. That's not the specific dislike. I love deck building games. Deck building games are great. I love Valley of the Kings. I love Dale of Merchants. I love Dominion. I like Runestones. I like Star Realms. I like the Legendary games. You know, there's all sorts of deck building games that I love. One thing in common with them, you'll notice, they're all pure deck builders. They are built from the ground up as a deck builder. So you accept that the theme has to work with the confines of deck building, which is difficult to do well anyway, though some have done it better than others, i.e. Alien Legendary. But I hate it when Euro game designers think, oh, I need to appease all the Euro gamers. I need to put as many mechanics as I can. Why would I want deck building in there? I don't care. Shove it in. And they put deck building in as a side thing. It's like got no business being there. It's purely there to appease Eurogame fanatics. That's it. No other reason. The biggest example, well, what else? Great Western Trail. Everybody knows I cannot stand this game. But one of the list, of reasons I dislike this game is the fact that the deck building in it is completely pointless. it does nothing to the theme. In fact, it actually subtracts from the theme, if that can be done, because you're supposed to be getting cows together to take to a market. But then you get to the market, and because the deck building is luck-based, you draw your cards from a deck after shuffling whatever you used a couple of turns ago, and you realise that when you're there, you can't sell the cows you wanted to sell. So you have to sell rubbish cows because your prize cows just mysteriously turned into ninjas and decided to hide behind a tree whilst you were like getting ready for the Kansas festival. It's annoying in that game, but there are other games where it's done, where it's just deck building is just there. It's difficult to make theme work with it, so I know that if you are going to put deck building as a side thing in your game, you haven't considered the thematic implications of it, and chances are it's going to negatively affect the game. A good deck builder is a pure deck builder. This is a good deck builder. Great Western Trail's cow mechanic is not a good deck builder. It's, maybe I hate this one more than I thought, but yeah, it's an irritation. I'm seeing it prop up more. It's always the heavy Euro games who feel like it's like, well, I've got 2 or 3 mechanics here and it's already 3 hours long, but maybe I can just squeeze one more little mechanic in this stupid game. And it's like, does my head in. If you're going to do deck building, do it properly. My number 9 is kind of a broad thing in the industry, and this is more from a content creator's perspective rather than a consumer perspective. And I'm not going to be naming names and things like that, but something I have noticed within publishers, content creators, YouTubers and everything, is that there is a sense of elitism in this industry. And I've had chats with other people as well. Again, I won't name names, but other people who are pretty well versed in this content creation business, where, well, I'd hate to say the word business, but half of it kind of is, and they feel the same way. You get to this point where you are so famous, so well known, that you can tell that the willingness to mingle with all the people, or the desire to look down maybe on other content creators starts to become a little bit more apparent. I can tell that there are some people out there that where you see them all the time and they're on YouTube or Twitch or whatever, and they'll make all these videos and they'll be really famous, get a bucket load of views, and then you'll never see them outside of that. You never hear of them at a convention, and if you do, it's probably because the convention has been forced to pay money to them to appear at the convention. But you don't seem to sort of see them responding to YouTube comments or just doing things with the people. I mean, with some of them, you want to play a game with them, you've practically got to win a Kickstarter stretch goal or win a contest in order to do it, and even then it's probably you've probably got to pay them to have a game with them. But I feel that the people sometimes people like me, but I mean, other people that are small fry, because we're insignificant compared to a lot of people in the industry, but I feel they sort of get trodden upon now and again, and it does irk me a bit. Where, I know lots of board game contributors who are fantastic people. They do great reviews, they talk honestly, from the heart, no IGN rip-offs here. And the problem is, because they're still small, they don't get noticed. They may not necessarily get review. I'm not talking about getting review copies and that, but they may not get shout-outs, they may not get invited as guests, and they may just not even be known or cared about by publishers. Because even some publishers, if you've got a good relation with a publisher, you'll know them, you'll get to know them, you'll get invited to stuff. But, that's easier for the bigger lot to do than the others. In fact, the bigger lot may not even necessarily know the publisher. It's just a case of, well, I know you get 1 million views with every video you do. Come to us. Come take my game. You get all the views. And as I say, publishers and that have to run a business. That's kind of it to be expected. But there's definitely this kind of plateau with all the small fry contributors like me, and then there'll be this huge gap between the big cheese lot, the big lot, and you don't see a lot of mingling between the two. Some do it better than others, but again, you see this big gap, and I feel like there should be more of a connection. Because I don't get why you would let it go to your head so much that you need to be paid to attend things, or you don't intermingle with the community as much. I mean, we do these videos for you guys. I enjoy doing this, but it's for you guys that I'm doing this, for the people. And people will ask me if I like to play games, with them at a convention. It's like, oh yeah, let's meet up next time you're at the Aircon or UK Games Expo. And, timetable permitting, I'll be there. No problem. And people get nervous sometimes to approach me and just ask to say hi. Don't. I'm one of you guys. I'm just a guy who talks about games. I'm not like a celebrity or anything. And some will say, can we play a game with you? Are you okay? And it's like, yeah, cool. Let's play a game. What do you want to play? Let's have fun. Let's talk. It's not, we're not celebrities. Although you get the impression that some of the bigger lot in this industry do seem to think that they are mass celebrities and need to be treated as such. We're not movie stars. You're not Tom Cruise or Cameron Diaz. You don't get to, act that way. And as I say, this is more of a personal peeve, and but then I have spoken with others who think the same. There just seems to be a little bit of it. So hopefully it will die down in time. Maybe as others build up, or maybe as people stop making content. Who knows? But I just feel that maybe a little bit of elitism is present. I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think I'm kind of seeing something that isn't there, or do you agree that there is some kind of thing like that? Particularly if you are a content contributor yourself. I'd like to know in the comments. So, kind of a weird one. I bet you didn't expect that, but that's my number 9. Number 8, right, this one is a bit of a bugbear, and this is common in things like, the Frofo burritos, not necessarily exploding kittens, but what's the other one called? Happy Salmon and Quelf, and a few other games, possibly even The Mind, I guess you could call it that, I don't know, but, and not Mansions of Madness, but what's it called, Mountains of Madness, it's games that force you to be silly. Can't stand that part of, if a game is naturally going to generate laughter, then great, it's a great game. Cosmic Encounter does not force you to get up and do a little twirl, as you play the game. The Sheriff in Nottingham, as you're doing trades and bribing with each other, does not tell you have to be the sheriff in a funny voice or make Monty Python references. But people do. They just do it because it naturally makes them do that. But games like Quelf and various other lesser known games, and but then Happy Salmon and Frofo Burrito, people know those ones, where it tells you to basically be an idiot. I don't like that. If I'm going to be an idiot, I'll choose to be an idiot. Don't tell me to be one. Happy Salmon does my head in. My friend Ricky, who runs the Dice Portsmouth Cafe, he doesn't love the game, but he likes it. He finds it a good laugh, and he constantly shows it to new people that come in. And I'm just like, dude, there's so many other games we can show these new people. Does it have to be that? And I have to roll my eyes and kind of hold my head in shame as 4 people nearby are suddenly going square slap, square slap, slap the face, oh, Happy Salmon, no. Oh, for crying out loud.
Don't ever do that again.
It's cringeworthy to watch, and I cannot stand it. Ow. Shaved today, so it's hurting a bit more there. But I just can't stand it. I will be silly in my own way. I'm a naturally silly person. You find me playing games, I will inject all sorts of weird thematic nonsense into the games. I will have a laugh. I will crack a joke. It's what I do. It's how I act. But I do not want to be told to do it. It's happened in a few things. Anyone remember school drama classes? Where you had an assignment and you had to act out a certain thing. I always had a problem whenever the assignment mentioned that you had to do something stupid or act in a weird, silly way, because it doesn't feel natural. And you know me, I don't like scripting this channel. Doing scripted reviews, because I don't believe that scripted humour works unless the writing is on point. I like things like Nostalgia Critic and stuff like that with scripted humour, but the writing's good. I like Screen Rants, they do the, what's it called? Pitch meetings. The writing in that's good, so I know that's scripted, but it's funny still. Robot Chicken, same sort of deal. But Z Garcia and the Dice Tower crew, when they get together and just are naturally funny, that's not scripted. That's all just their own laughter.
Cash grab! Yeah, baby!
But then you get others, where it's scripted, they're forcing gags down your throat, and it just isn't funny. It doesn't feel funny to me. And again, this game has got a script saying that you must act like a complete... Well, gotta keep this family friendly, is that you gotta act like a complete twonk in order to... anybody watch Only Fools and Horses? Act like a complete twonk to play the game. And it feels weird, it feels cringeworthy, and I'm not a fan of it. And it's typically kids' games, but occasionally they throw these into some adult games as well, and it's like, don't you dare throw these into my adult games, because then I'm really not gonna like it. So, yeah, number 8, forcing you to be silly. Okay, my number 7 is probably going to be more in line with what other people might think, actually, because looking at my 10, 9, and 8, they're going to be pretty close to me. But 7, I'm sure, is shared by lots of you out there, so this is definitely one for the people. Publishers, when you are making your games, and you're considering, right, how are we going to package this? How is this all going to go in the box? And how's the consumer going to receive this? Stop being lazy with your game box designs. This, I hate this one. Lazy box / insert design. I did a Traintopia recently, and I made a comment on it where, there's barely any stuff in the box, and yet the box is a, Ticket to Ride Empires and Northlight size box with practically nothing in it. It could have fit in a smaller box, but for some reason it's a giant box. Well, what's the point then? That's lazy in the game box design, but it's also bad in the insert design, because it's like, well, it's a waste of plastic. It's a waste of space. But there are some inserts where you get the insert, and not only does it not tell you where everything goes, that is already a bit of a bugbear, but then nothing fits right in it, or the things don't go exactly where you want, or you realise that, okay, I've got to put all these cards in this cubby hold, and then there's no finger hold in order to actually get the cards out, or it goes halfway down. I've seen that happen, whoa, great design there. And, with the boxes, it could work the other way around. I don't like storing or buying air. I don't go, right, oh, here's this big box with nothing in it, but at least I got my fill of oxygen for the day. No. But then I also want everything to go back in the box from which it came. And the Garphill Games ones are a bit known for this. I can only just fit everything into the Architects of the West Kingdom box with the expansion included. Paladins of the West Kingdom is a nightmare to put back in a box, and that's just a base game. If that ever gets an expansion, you will not fit it in the base game. I guarantee you that. It will not happen. But they had to go for these little square boxes. And it's like, well, that is a game that needs a box of that size. So how come everyone keeps messing that up? I mean, is it because this sort of size box is like, I mean, this is the standard size box and it's great, but it should have whatever content it needs. Is it like such a cheap deal that you get like half off or something in bulk? I don't know. There's gotta be better ways to do it. So yeah, I can't really say much more than that. People hate bad inserts. FFG, they don't bother with inserts. They just give you the Red 5 standing by Star Wars trench in their boxes. And again, that's pretty lazy, but they say they do it for logistics. And it's like, well, no, how about you take the effort to give us an insert? But, publishers are going to do what they're going to do in order to cut costs somewhere. But it's an irritation. Lazy box or insert design. Number 6. Now, this one I talk about a lot when I'm putting as a dislike for certain, not even Eurogames, just dislike for certain games. And that's when there's a lack of innovation. And I'm hating this in general in industry. I feel that there is a solid lack of innovation with games, where you can see that the same mechanics are being repeated endlessly without enough to separate them from others. Eurogames, particularly the dry ones, are particularly bad at this, where you end up with even some Ameritrash ones. I mean, some dungeon crawls can be like that, where you get the dungeon crawl game and it's like, it's another fantasy dungeon crawl. What's different? What they class as, oh, this is the innovative part. What, a deck of cards with a little modifier in it that has 1s and 2s in it is your replacement for a custom die, and that's supposed to be innovative? No, it's not. But then the Euro games do this way more often, especially like the beige Euros and that, where it's just like there is no difference. Train games, don't even have that kind of thing. That every single train game is practically the same. It's here's your hexes, here's your cash, here's a bunch of trains, put them on the map in a big line. There's not much innovative stuff you can do with a train game, so therefore they fall victim of this. But I love it when a game throws a nice innovative twist in, and I've been talking about things like Terramara, and Wingspan. I'm trying to think of better examples for an innovative addition to the game. Well, Detective, pretty innovative way. Chronicles of Crime, innovative, with the QR codes. Trying to think. Come on, Mansions of Madness second edition with its app, was a pretty innovative go. Come on, gotta think. It's hard to, like I say, there's so little innovation in the industry, it's hard to find great examples of it. But come on, think. Think hard. Well, I mean, the Dixit card thing with Mysteria and Obscura now, I mean, I thought that was pretty innovative. I mean, that was a very different party game when it came out. But then to use that mechanic in these like competitive and like team-based games, I thought was pretty decent. There's definitely others. Well, bag building when that first came out. I mean, it's kind of a bit like deck building, but it was something new and different. So it's hard to gauge what innovation should be. And granted, we've had recent deals with this where, like the Golden Geek Awards, Wingspan won Most Innovative Game. Wingspan's great. I've got it, and it deserved some of the awards it got. Innovation wasn't one of them. It's like, okay, this is a Tableau deck builder. Has a different theme. That's innovative. No. Using a different theme is cool. I like it if it has a unique setting to it. But that in itself is not pure innovation. It's not enough to make it like the most innovative game ever. I mean, the Crew, Quest for Planet 9 or whatever it was called, that one was good because it took two mechanics we'd seen before, but nobody had ever tried to put them together. A co-op trick-taking game? A dated mechanic combined with co-opness that created itself to make this pretty interesting card game that's suitable for multiple ages? That, I thought, was a much more innovative design. But, it got a runner-up place, fair enough, but that definitely was more innovative than Wingspan. And this is my feel, maybe I'm getting slightly jaded with games being released. I mean, when you get thousands and thousands and thousands of games released, it's inevitable that you're going to see a lack of innovation because people are just going to chuck everything out of the wall and see what hits. But it's problematic. I mean, I feel that the industry should dial itself back a bit. Get back to those days where there was only so many games a year. Granted, if a game gets released only ever so often and it turns out to be bad, it's a bit of a bummer, but we just got too many games being released at the moment and it's just the same rehash of this and this and this, and it gets worse when I see Kickstarters, particularly, I mean, I get emails from a lot of people submitting Kickstarters, and I see a few other Kickstarters on the web and that, and I look at them and I think, this is exactly the same as this. You have literally just ripped the idea off. Or, this is no different from your other Against Humanity game, so why should I care? It's a bugbear. I don't think this is a problem that's going to be going away, at least not unless we make less games, but that's unlikely given current, production standards and that. I do want to see designers and publishers think harder about the ideas for their games. Think outside the box, try something different. It may not always work, but at least it'll be interesting, it will get attention. Certainly for me it will get attention, but just not the same thing over the time. And this can work with mechanics, it can work with themes. I'll probably get onto some of that a little bit later, but yeah. Number 6, lack of innovation, lack of ideas. And number 5 is a particular aspect of long games. Long games have their bases. I mean, I have some long games on the shelf. I don't mind if the game is long by itself, as long as you can be engaged throughout, and as long as you feel like you stand a chance. The thing I hate, and this is a term, I don't know if it's an official term or not, if not, it's one I've made up at least, pseudo knockout. This is a thing that I come across a lot in a lot of long Euro games where it's kind of related to the runaway leader problem, where you could call who's going to win by like the early game or middle game. But this one I feel is worse even than that, because it's basically where you're not eliminated from the game because of either being screwed over or mistakes you've made, but you might as well have been. So the worst contender for this is Food Chain Magnate. I mean, one of the many list of reasons I hate that game is the fact that it's like a 4-hour game, and because Splotter have this wild notion about if you can't win on the first turn or lose on the first turn, what's the point of the first turn, which makes no sense. But, with Food Chain Magnate, if you make even the slightest errors early in the game, and this could be from your whatever, just you're new to the game, or you take a couple of actions that you really probably shouldn't have done early, or maybe that you just have no idea what you're doing, or it could be that opponent screws you over by like getting in your way really early, which holds you back. If that happens early, you're done. You won't pull it back. There's no way to recover. So the next 3 to 4 hours is basically a waste of time. You know, games are enjoyable to play regardless of whether you win or lose, as long as you feel you have a fighting chance. I always say that you don't have to win a game, but I want to know I'm contributing. I want to know that my presence here is still worth it. It's still there. And there are some games where I can play them and feel like I have a fighting chance even if I don't win. Seven Wonders is a good aspect, you know. I don't usually feel that, you know, I feel like I'm probably going to lose, but I feel I might be able to pull something out of the bag. You know, thematic games like the first Martians and, you know, this War of Mine, Tainted Grail, you feel like you're on the back foot and it's like, come on, I can still do this, we can still pull through, come on, one last effort. And, you know, love co-ops for that reason. In fact, you know, solo games can be like that, the Arkham Horror LCGs and Lord of the Rings LCGs. I could be on the back foot and then just get that little recovery. Come on, beat him, and then the Green Goblin dies. You know, love it when that happens. Euro games can do this. I played Keyflower the other day with two friends, and I was pretty much thinking, yeah, he's going to win, he's got like two things there, it's working for him, fine. And they're getting in my way and screwing me over, which is not helping. I only lost by 5 points. You know, it's like, oh, cool, I actually had a chance. I had a chance to pull it back, but just didn't quite pull it back enough. That is fun. That makes you feel, it feels like the game was worth it. But I've played, you know, Great Western Trail, Terraforming Mars, Food Chain Magnate, pretty much anything by Splotter, to be honest. Barrage, Crystal Palace, trying to think of other examples lately. I mean, to be fair, even the Vital Lacerda games can slightly suffer from this if you do really badly at the start. But there's just a lot of times where you play this game and you know that you're not going to win, you know that you're just screwed, it's so blatant you can't pull it back that the rest of the game just feels inadequate. Happens more with long games. In a short game, that's fine. I could play a game of Ticket to Ride or Barron Park and be like, oh, I've really started badly. Yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to do well here. But the game is enjoyable enough as a little puzzle compared to the 4-hour game, but also the game's over in 45 minutes. If I do make a mistake and realise, oh, I've effectively knocked myself out of the game's over in 10-15 minutes. What does it matter? But if it's over in 3 hours, that's a bit more of a problem. You know, time is short and precious. So number 5, Pseudo Knockout. My number 4. Oh, yes. Oh, God. Yeah. Publishers, I know you're trying this as a sales tactic. Stop it now. Really. No, really. Stop it. You have, on the box, let's see, here's the best example I can pull. Let's pull out Predator Quarter for this little example here. Here, you've got some key information here, right? Okay? All right? Here, we have an age rating. I couldn't care less about the age rating. I don't have kids. Then you have a time length for the game. And then you have a player count. These two pieces of information, the time length and player count, are paramount to informing people about the game in question. Stop lying about it. Even this one is actually lying about it. I mean, I love this game. It's 2 to 4 players. Works fine at those player counts, but it says 90 to 120 minutes.
Wait, 105? Yeah, in your bra.
Yeah, sorry Ignacity, but this game does not get played with 3 to 4 players. That game does not finish in 2 hours. It's like a 3-hour game easily. And this is the problem. Misleading player counts, time length information, basically misleading information. When the publisher knows, the designer knows that it's not going to work at these player counts or time lengths, and they still put it on the box because they're trying to sell it to more people. If they put honestly on the box that this is a minimum 2-hour game and probably will take 4, most people won't buy it because it's like, oh, that's a bit long for me, I don't want it. So they deliberately cut it by an hour, ignoring important things like the setup and the teach. Because in a wonderful world, you know, you might have the same people playing your game 50 times in a row, but in the real world, you know, outside of Dreamland, you have different people wanting to play the game. You need to set it up. You need to teach it. Therefore, it needs to be factored into the time, whether as a separate piece of information, you know, you could say, set up and teach, 30 minutes. Cool. I know that's for 30 minutes and that's a 2-hour game. But, or mix the two together, whatever. But with time lengths, it is constant. On even some of my favourite games here have got it, but there are plenty of games where I look at the timeline and I just think, you are wishful thinking at that. And it's not like the God, the repercussion you get for this is the whole idea of, oh, well, you've got loads of slow people who obviously are analysis paralysis prone. Granted, I do know a few people that are like that, but I'm talking about just games in general where I've played with fast people. The game still does not physically take that short a time, and even then, are you literally going to put a situation, a piece of information on the box that is literally the pitch perfect scenario, like in a dreamland scenario where it's the same two people playing this game who know it off the top of their heads with no distractions whatsoever, and the game's already magically set itself up for you by flicking your magic wand, then it will take you 90 minutes. No, give us a decent amount. And if you hear something outside, I apologise, but neighbours. But it's just seriously, and that was with that's with the timelines. Player counts is usually even worse. They put a solo mode in it, it's one player. Fine, as long as the solo mode's good. But when you see 2 to 5 players on a Euro game, run the other direction. Because it's usually a case that it works great at 3, works pretty well at 4, sucks at 5, too long at 5, and has some bizarre variant or stupid mode for 2 players. Rarely are most Euro games best at 2 and best at their maximum player counts. It's going to be in the middle where they're great. But of course, the publisher doesn't want to put 3 to 4 players only on the box because, again, they want to sell it to people. You tell me that the game can't support 2 players and suddenly couples are excluded. And that's a lot of people who will buy your game. But then people are like, well, I've got a family of 5 and I have people around. We end up with 6 of us regularly. Oh, that's okay. This Euro game does 5 players. It's fine, yeah. Oh, sweet. How long does it take? 5 hours.
5 is right out.
It does this all the time, and the 2 player is often some rubbish bot or weird setup and dummy player, which means more rules to learn. It means it's not balanced well. It's usually an afterthought, because a lot of the times it's like that. In fact, true story, Vital Lacerda, you remember his first game, CO2? The publisher put down 2 to 5 players or something on that table. Or was it 3 to 5? I can't remember. Vital Lacerda has told me himself that it wasn't his desire to put 5 players on the box. Because everybody who's played CO2 with 5 players knows that the game is practically broken at 5 players. Like, mechanically it's broken, lengthwise it's broken, it just sucks at 5 players. I mean, the game's not great anyway, but still. Vital didn't want it as 5 players. He knew it didn't work at 5 players, but the publisher forced his hand. So, when the designer knows that it doesn't work at that thing, then publishers take the designer's note into account and stop trying to sell your game to more people. Hey, take a bit more care over what the consumer needs. And it does my head in so much because I see it and people ask me to comment on the player counts on videos, so I do, and regularly I'll find that the maximum player count is too long and the short one is just too weird, and it's a bugbear. With the lengths as well, yeah, this had to be in the top 5. Misleading box information. Alright, my number 3 most hated thing I see in games, and this is another publisher. In fact, are they all? No, no, this will be the last thing that is down to a publisher issue. I mean, I suppose the next one could be, but we'll see. This one is another component which is quintessential to your initial enjoyment of a game, and possibly your repeat enjoyment, depending on how often you play it or how often you teach it. It is a nice collection of pages that is so paramount to being able to get your game on the table and enjoy it that it needs to be done well. Bad rulebooks needs to be a thing of the past. And every publisher I know has been guilty of this at times, where some rulebooks can just be really bad. But I hate bad rulebooks or overly long rulebooks. You get some rulebooks where it's like, oh, this game will be great, and the rulebook's like 45 pages long. It's like, you couldn't condense it down just a little bit? Or maybe you should have considered that your game needed to be a bit more streamlined, so you didn't have 45 pages of rules that are all written in some weird, like Huey decimal setup, 4.2.1 paragraph for this, so it's a nightmare to follow. GMT, I'm looking at you. But there are rulebooks where, we know from publishers I like that there have been some bad rulebooks. So the first Martians that I've got under here, the rulebook for that is atrocious. Sorry, the game I love, but the rulebook is atrocious. But there are other games as well which had very lackluster rulebooks, or too long, too weird, not enough pictures. Come on, your rulebook needs to have some basic fundamentals in it. A setup diagram, preferably one that tells you how to put everything back in the box. But I'll live without it, but you definitely need a setup game. You know, setup pro forma, not just text, a picture. You need to have a constructed layout of what you're doing. So what are you doing in the game to win? What is the round sequence? What is the turn sequence? Then go into each action separately with the detail, and then the end of the game or something. You know, put it in a good layout. But then you also need to have picture examples. So don't just give me a wall of text and say this is how it works. Show me how it works. People respond more to pictures than they will words. And especially if this is something that could have like an FAQ moment, then put a picture in to get rid of that. You know, there's a Cooper Island, very complex game. Very lots of rules, lots of stuff in there, and it's quite a lengthy rule book. But the way it's laid out and the way there's so many picture references in it, it is a joy of a rule book. It's done so well, and kudos, has to be given to that. I love it when it's done. Paul Grogan, we know he does like rulebook editing and stuff, and typically with the Vital Lacerda ones and that, if he's done the rulebook, I guarantee it's going to be written in a better way than if it had been done normally. And rulebook editors, you should think about doing this more often, people. But even if you can't get an editor, if it's just you lot in there, at least stop reading the rulebook as if you're stuck in your own echo chamber, where you read the rulebook and you go, yeah, I already know, yeah, that's fine, yeah, people will get that. As soon as you start thinking like that, your rulebook sucks, because I see that so often. And Traintopia I did recently, the rulebook in that, not only does it miss out a key component, but it also misses out scoring endgame objectives. Yeah, we know how that works, it's a simple thing, but a new gamer might not have heard of endgame objectives, and even then, how do you miss something like that? How do you miss like a key component of your game in like the endgame scoring? Because it was an afterthought and nobody thought to check the rulebook, because everybody thought, well, we already know how to play the game and it's all like that. Yeah, and there are other games that are like this, Terraforming Mars' rulebook is pretty lame. Let's be fair, there are games that I like on my... I said First Martians, that was a pretty bad rulebook. What other games can I think of where the rulebook has been maybe not as great as it could have been? The Tainted Grail one's a bit iffy. Not the tutorial. The tutorial, and it's great, but the rulebook is a little bit iffy. Try to think, come on, there must be more examples. Well, Ryan Lockett's games, the rulebooks are a little hit and miss in that one, and like I say, the more you mess up your rulebook, the more it's going to irritate players, particularly me. If I get a game to review and I can see the rulebook's garbage, I know that I'm in for a rough ride, and it will be. If somebody picks up the rulebook and realizes it's going to be a chore to learn the game, that's instantly going to lower their appreciation of the game, because if you have to go through a chore to learn it or even reference it in future plays, it's going to get taken off the shelf a lot less often than you might think. So get your rulebooks right. Okay, my number 2, where I'm a big lover of theme in games. Good themes. Good interesting themes. Wingspan. It's about birds. I don't know anything really about birds, but I like birds. It's a different theme. It's a nice, calming, pleasant theme. I like it. It's a good theme. But boring themes, particularly the ones you get in what me and friends determine as beige Euros, I cannot stand. And it's always the same with these beige dry Euros. I mean, this could be Stefan Feld games, this could be Martin Wallace games, it could be just random German designer games. It could be all sorts of these different games where the theme is not only pasted on or barely existent, but it's also the most boring theme ever. And we'll get on to a bit more than this in a minute, but the beige Euros in particular, they're always, what is it about designers and that? Deciding that the most interesting thing you can come up with in a theme is the church. Why? So many of these Euros that friends of mine like, and the rulebook will start with, it is 1641, and the king has decided that bread is outlawed, and now you have to bake bread in secret, and the church and the Inquisition want to have your bread. There was some weird game, it was like Panda Main or something, I don't know, they were playing, it was a Kickstarter game, and it's like, you're baking bread, which sounded cool. When he was explaining it to me, I thought, oh, you're baking bread. Is this a bit like a Agricola and Caverna, you're making food, this is interesting. No. when I looked at it, it's like, oh, you're basically just doing that as part of leveling up the Church and Inquisition tracks. And it's like, what is it with these historical themes where it's all about pleasing the Church? I know that the Church and the Inquisition and all that stuff like that was a big part of British history, but this just goes to show that British history is boring as all get out, and I don't care. It's, I like world ancient history. I'm fine with Egyptians. I'm interested in Incas and Aztecs, Teotihuacan and all that lot. I mean, yeah, it's a bit pasted on in that game, but okay, it's a different setting. I like it. But as the Britons, we have the most boring history ever. It's just coal mining and dukes and counts and churches, and that's about it. And a few wars thrown in. It's I mean, people are going to meme that one like crazy out there, but it's hate it. And my friends will like these games. I mean, they played the Hansa Teutonica recently, and, I knew they were going to love the game. I mean, I could have bet money on it and got a decent amount out of it. But my God, does Hansa Teutonica have one of the most boring themes ever? And there was another game they liked. It's got an Italian name, like Villego della Paletto, I don't know. But it's literally like a beige map. The map is beige, let alone the rest of the game. Lorenzoni Magnifico. Boring and very restrictive. But again, it's the most boring theme ever. The church sings brass, coal and iron, and cotton. Woo! And I realise that themes are subjective. Yes, granted. One man's hated theme is another man's loved theme. But dragons, wizards, space aliens, Arthurian legends, detective work, Star Wars, Warhammer 40k, Cthulhu. How are these less interesting than churches, popes, counts, and inquisitors and medieval stuff? I can't even describe it well enough. It's that boring. And there's one other, but we'll see about that. And it just does my head in. And some of these Euro games that come out again, they just put these boring themes on, and sometimes I hate it when it's a pasted theme as well. That can link into this as well, where you make an effort to say, oh, this is this theme, and then you don't even bother with it. It's worse when the theme is boring to begin with. I mean, the Maracaibo game, it's a good game, but the theme is barely there. The story is pretty lame. And it's not even that interesting a theme. I mean, it's ancient Caribbean sailing and, more get people and level up tracks. It's pasted as well as not being that interesting. But there was another, I forget what they're called. I think one's called Ruhr, R-U-H-R or something. And there's a few others, Lignum and I don't know. But my mate was describing this to me. And he said that, oh yeah, we've got to get to play this one. He likes a lot of these dry airs as well. But it's a trilogy of games made by these German designers that's about coal.
Right.
Really? A trilogy of... How do you make a trilogy of games about coal? What's interesting about coal? It's black, it's messy, and it powers half the world. But yeah, and, rips the planet apart. Great. Job done. It's coal. It's not interesting. So, yeah. You look at my games, you'll notice that some of them, if they've got themes, have got very interesting themes, or very different, unique themes as well. But the beige Euros and these Euros that just come out with some... But I could go on forever with this. Whether it's a beige Euro about the Church and Inquisition leveling up tracks, so like Orleans with the French medieval thing, or the pipeline, you're building pipes and refining oil. Yay! It's like, seriously. A bit of effort with themes, guys, okay? If you're not going to have a theme in your game, then at least pick an interesting one. But, well, I can't say much more because I need to get on to my number one. But yeah, boring, pasted, beige themes, I really hate. I don't hate them as much as this, although this is technically slightly mechanics and mostly theme, and you'll notice that on the previous number I didn't mention this, because I didn't really want to give it away for this one. Most people, I think, might have guessed this one, and certainly in recent, social media posts and with Kickstarters going on, I've kind of gone, a bit more aggressive on these, and yeah. I do not like these as a concept. I do not like this as a mode of transportation. I do not like it as a theme. I do not like it as a mechanic. I have no interest in these whatsoever, and all of these games are the friggin' same. I hate and despise and loathe train games. Train games are the worst thing to come into the board game industry. And I'm putting this above trading in the Mediterranean. Concordia's theme is more interesting to me, as dull and pasted as that is, than trains. I don't even like them in real life as a mode of transportation. We're in Britain. We've got one of the worst train networks on the planet. It's insanely expensive. It's overcrowded. They stink. They're not clean. They never run on time. You're restricted on where you can go because they're like, oh, I want to get over to there. Oh, it's only it's 10 quid to get there. Well, that's a bit of a long way. I could just drive, which is more convenient, and that's just like using them in real life. I know other countries have got better versions of it, but again, it's still trains. I had friends who, when we went on holiday to different parts of the country and that, they always made it a thing to go somewhere where there was a steam railway nearby, and we'd always have to go there for the day. I've never been so bored in my life. What is it about a steam railway that's interesting? They make it a deal for us to like sit on it and go, oh, look, yeah, we're moving through the countryside at 2 miles an hour. Yay! Oh, stupid trains. But with train games, what is it about these train games that everyone likes? There are some stuff that I can go, look, I see why you like this game, fair enough, go ahead. And honestly, from the depths of my heart, guys, if you like train games, then just enjoy them. Don't worry about what I'm saying. As long as you enjoy it, then that's the main thing. But I will never understand why you like them. They are all boring. They're all the same. Every single time I see a train game, I see no difference between one or the other, apart from whether you have to put train pieces on the board or draw it in crayon. It's ridiculous. 18xx, long, dull, boring, vindictive. You can have pseudo knockout from turn 2, and then suddenly for 5 hours you're playing this game that looks like rubbish with boring hexes and white maps and paper money and poker chips. It's like, man, I've played 18xx games. I have played a couple of them. I never want to play another one again, ever. Small or big, I don't want to. I hate them. And they're so dull that they need separate rooms at conventions for people to play them in absolute silence. And they are playing them in absolute silence because it's so dull they can't even muster the power to speak. But lately, there's so many of them, and they're just all the same. Here's some hexes, here's some train pieces, or if you're lucky, train pieces, it might be cubes. Put them on a hex, connect A to B, and buy shares and invest in the companies. That's what 90% of train games are, and it's boring. My day job as an accountant, I don't want a game to escape reality that's about train investment. It's not fun. And lately, we've had people putting up videos and playthroughs for things like Mini Express, and there's a small railroad small railroad empires or something. I mean, what was Tiny Epic Rails taken? And the games are the same. It's just, here's some trains, here's a map, connect them. Here's some trains, here's a map, don't go bankrupt, connect them. Age of Steam, Ride to Rails, Irish Gauge, Chicago Express. Oh god, that game's horrible. 3 things you do on your turn. One of them's not even worth doing, so you just got 2 things you do on your turn, which is basically just move your train track from the right side to the left side. Yay, fun. Age of Steam. People sort of go on about, this is fantastic artwork, it's such a beautiful looking game. It's green. I like green, but the whole thing is just green with some tracks on it. Yes, graphic design wise it's good, it's clear, but let's face it, it's a train game, you don't have to show that much information in the train game, but it's not like the best artwork ever. I don't care if Ian O'Toole's done it. This is good artwork. This is good artwork. Age of Steam is not. But I see it so often. And Mini Rails, 18x Lilliput or whatever it's called, Small Railroad Empire. Again, these are bad names. Small Railroad Empires. What about that makes you think, this will be fun, this will be entertaining? Can we have like Terror on Platform 42? Or, Train of Death? Something like that. Just something a little bit more interesting than, like, title-wise even, than what you got. Oh, what a day! What a lovely day! Oh, my throat, it hurts. It's so bad. In fact, I'm going to take a drink on camera. I'm going to do it. I need it because my throat is sore from how much I hate these. I hate these so much. And what worries me, my friend has recently had a game in the post called Steam and... was it Imperium, Steam and something? I can't remember. Steam and Trains. I think it's called Imperial or something, but it's a recent Kickstarter he's just got, and it's basically train game mixed with wizards and spells. It's done by the same guy who designed Argent the Consortium that I've got down there. I feel like I'm gonna have to play this one with him, purely because I like Argent the Consortium, and if that designer is doing a train game, then he must have done something different with it, surely. But literally, if he gets me to play it, I'm doing it because it's got wizards in it. Wizards and spells, maybe I can do something cool with that. But if I play that game, and it turns out that it's basically just a 4-hour train game that is nothing but the usual rubbish with investing and all that lot with trains, and the wizard theme is pasted on, I will be livid. You know, you dare pull another Iron Dragon on me, and I will be livid. Is because you dare like bait and switch me with promises of wizards and spells and cool stuff, and then throw in that, I will be mad. Very, very mad. Just train games. Trains as a theme. And some train games, I mean, people say, well, you like Ticket to Ride, and you like Spike and Whistle Stop. They're train games. Are they really? I mean, Whistle Stop is basically just Metro with extra bits. It could be any theme, and you're not investing in companies in it. It's just basically move your thing along the track and get to certain points. It could have been any theme. Spike is pick up and deliver game, but again, it didn't have to be trains. It could have been anything and probably still worked. But it's a light train game. It doesn't have the investing rubbish. It's just a case of, and maybe that's the bit in train games I don't mind. Just simple network building. When there's a fun reason for doing it, not just any old network building, but, you know, some reason to do it that's, you know, a bit more different. And Spike is simple and lightweight, and I like it. Ticket to Ride, who calls that a train game? I mean, come on, Ticket to Ride London is literally done with taxis and buses, New York and London, you know, and that's evident that it's not a train game. It's just there. I don't play Ticket to Ride thinking I'm going choo-choo in my little train. No, I'm just connecting bits with rummy-style mechanics. It's a fun game. I don't feel like it's a train game. As soon as you start going into the heavy train games, though, and this is something that is talked about all the time. It's like everybody's posting things about Mini Express and, you know, Ride to Rails and Small Railroad Empires, and they're going to say, "Oh, I've played this game and it was so amazing and engaging," and that it's trains.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
Anyway, must get on with wrapping up this video because God knows how long it is by now. I need to get dinner and do some exercise. Oh my god. So there you go, guys. Very quickly, I will mention my Patreon choice. This was actually my number 11, actually, so they caught onto this quite quick, and that is Kickstarter exclusives. Kickstarter exclusives are a pain. I mean, you know, Cool Mini or Not are really bad for this, but when someone puts a pricey game out that's actually more expensive than buying it in retail, but then tries to coax you into buying it because they make like 60% of the game exclusive that you can only get if you pay us another $200 to do it, you know, or you won't get it. All this extra content, nope, only exclusive. Yeah, and it's annoying, you know. Stretch goals are great. Things like, oh, you are going to use standees, but you can have this cool miniature if it's something you kickstart. Fine, it's a cosmetic thing, it's not that big a deal. But when it's like full-on expansions, actual races, you know, proper content that will make the game better, and you make it exclusive for stupid amounts of money, don't like it. I'm not a fan, and, you know, my Patreons don't like it either. Some Kickstarters are better when it's just stretch goals. We'll fund your game if you can promise that the stretch goals are going to be interesting, but don't try and force me into your game just by saying, oh, you've already paid us $100, well, pay us another $200. You know, I don't know how many exclusives were on the... I don't think Gloom Frosthaven had many exclusives on it, but, I mean, Cool Mini or Not, I've made a living with all these exclusives. You know, Tainted Grail do it every now and again, but not as bad as Cool Mini or Not. I'm not a big fan of it, but it wasn't hated enough to be on the list, but my Patreons thought otherwise. So yeah, there you go. Top 10 things I don't like in games. And I felt good. Oh, that felt good to get that off my chest. You know, isolation feels a little bit better all of a sudden. Oh, wait a minute, no it doesn't. But, oh well, still felt good to get that out of the way. You know, get it off my chest, it'll be good. Wait till I talk about my top 10 overrated games next. That's going to be fun. And don't worry, I'll do some positive lists after that, you know. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up. So hope you've enjoyed this list, whether you agree with the points or not. Hope you've enjoyed watching me act like a complete lunatic via my own choice. Listening forced me to do it, you know. But hope you've enjoyed it. Glad you're enjoying the shelf by shelf videos. You know, that's basically what I've got at the moment. You know, the podcast came out, but other than the occasional podcast, I'm kind of out of reviews at the moment. You know, nothing news in. So, and obviously it's hard to play anything that's not on Tabletopia. So, you know, if it's shelf by shelf you like or top 10s, that's pretty much going to be the focus for a while. And I will see you on the next video. So take care. If you like what you see, subscribe to the Patreon YouTube channel. Catch me on Facebook and Twitter. And remember, as always, regardless if you are tired and worn out from ranting and raving about stuff you don't like, at the end of the day, it's still only a game. Life moves on. Take care. See you soon.